What is up, guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my second installment, and as promised, I am trying to make things a little bit more snappy, a little bit more engaging for you. I'm learning about video editing, but bear with me, it is work in progress. However, the information that I'm providing will not be compromised at any point during the course of your viewing, and it's very up to date, it's very researched, very well researched. I've spent almost half a decade traveling in the Indian subcontinent, and it's unique to a lot of the information is unique to me, and you will not find this very easily anywhere else on the internet. So enjoy. Today I'll be talking about traveling Ladakh. Now, Ladakh is one of my favourite places, if not the most favourite place for me to travel anywhere in the world. And the reason why that is because there's nowhere else quite like it. The high mountain deserts are visually incredibly stunning, and you will not find a more photogenic place. I mean, every time you turn, there is another chance for you to take a nice picture. I love my photography. That's one key reason. The Tibetan culture is very much intact up there, and it's far away from the hustle and bustle of down south. It's very much more relaxed. The next point is, I'm a big wildlife enthusiast. There's a chance for you to see some very endangered and unusual wildlife up there. The king of the show is obviously the snow leopard, but for me, all of it's nice. And the last reason is the landscapes. You can just get lost in there. I mean, it's beautiful. So here's my top 10 tips, and without further ado, let's jump straight in. Tip number 1, what is the best way to get to Ladakh? Now, all roads come in and out of Leh. Leh is the capital. It's very tiny in comparison to the other bustling metropolises that are Indian state capitals. This one is pretty small. But all roads run in and out of there. That's where all the travel agencies are. That's where the bulk of the guest houses are. So all roads go towards Leh. And there's 3 ways to get there. There's no right way to get there, but there is definitely a wrong way to get there. And the wrong way to get there for me, and for most people, is from Manali to Leh. This is offered by public bus, and you will be able to get Jeep, and it takes 2 days. You usually sleep in Keelong. The reason why this is the wrong way is because of the altitude difference. Manali is at 2,050 meters and Leh is at 3,500 meters, and you will cross, I think, 3 passes over 5,000 meters and the Rotang La Pass. So what that means is it would be more convenient if the taxis or buses just dropped you off at hospital, just cut out the middleman, and then that would make it easier and more convenient for you, because you will get quite serious altitude sickness. I mean, not everybody does, the drivers don't, but the odds are you will. And I've literally seen people crawling, vomiting from altitude sickness, and they still have a long way to go. I do not recommend this route, but it is a service that is readily promoted. Now, the second way, and the way I think most people get there, is by flying in. And if you fly in from Delhi, then you will almost experience some symptoms of altitude sickness. You will, and so that you can get around that by not doing anything for a day. Don't budget too much for the next day. What I usually do is, if I fly in, I fly to the capital, I don't do anything for a day, and get into the airport, into town, just get there as fast as you can, and get into your hotel room, don't move. The second day, walk around town, and if you're feeling really energetic, go up to the palace. But don't do too much more than that. If you're flying from Srinagar, obviously if you're flying from Srinagar, the symptoms will be less. Then the third option is to come from Srinagar by bus via Kargil. This is a controversial route because not many people want to take it, because it involves you going to Kashmir. Now, Kashmir for me is not as bad as what people say. I didn't feel threatened in any way, shape or form. I found the hustle there to be painful on my soul, but I didn't find it overly dangerous, which is the key concern. Now, the beauty of taking this route is the gradient is very, very gentle, and I didn't experience any symptoms of AMS while I was there. So there are your three options. Weigh them up, see what works for you, and as I said, probably don't go for the Manali to Ladakh. I don't even know why the service is there. It's convenient because none of the Jeeps want to go back empty, so but I've seen it end in tears too many times. Just avoid it if you can. There's no reason for you to put yourself at unnecessary risk. So that's tip number one. Now on to tip number two. Should you take a tour? Many people take tours to go to Ladakh because they're on a time budget, or they're not feeling very secure about their skills as a backpacker, or whatever the case may be. I strongly suggest that you don't pay anything from your country, because you will pay more than you have to pay, and it doesn't matter if you're just there for 2 weeks or a month or however long. If you go to Leh, there is a lot of competition for your money. There is a lot of tourist offices, and so you've got a little bit of wiggle room, and you are more than likely going to get a much better deal than you are if you book in your own country. There is no reason for you to book from your own country. It's not helpful to your budget unless money's not a problem. You know, some people it's not a problem. So that's tip number two. Tip number three is splitting the costs. It's kind of a follow on from the last tip. Now you can, if you're a budget traveler and you're going to visit Leh in the peak season, you will see a lot of shared taxis that leave every day to Somoridi, Pangdong So, Nubra Valley, and the tour agents will put boards up outside their shop, and they leave pretty much every day. Now you have to pay by the seat, so it makes sense for you to split the costs if you can, because it's a long way. And so if you're on a budget, if you're on a budget, then that is certainly your best option, and they're very frequent. And also, if you're going to go mountaineering, the odds of you paying for your own trip with guides, with porters, you don't want to do that as an option because it's very, very expensive. And so the advantages of splitting the responsibilities of the finance there is obvious. And so if you can, split the costs. If you're going to do a homestay trek, why not add that? If you want to do one of the homestay treks, you don't really need a guide. Like if you take on the Marca Valley, you don't really need a guide. It's frequently, if you're on a budget, this is a great option if you want to get out there trekking, and you don't want to pay for a guide and porter and everything else, because you don't need them. You're going to sleep in somebody's house at the end of every day. Also, the Upola Valley is another good option. The Upola Valley there's a road that runs through it at this point, but I do believe there's still lots of footpaths that you can veer away from the road, so that's a big help. If you're on a budget, you want to go trekking, you don't want to spend a fortune because it is really expensive. I've researched into some of the trips that are offered. For example, if you want to take the 21-day walk from Somoridi over to Spiti Valley, I think that works out about £500. So the treks and tours are not cheap. If you can split the costs, split the costs. Yeah, that will be tip number three. Don't make it more expensive than it has to be. Tip number four, take it easy. It is more of a marathon rather than a sprint. Now, AMS is a major problem. Don't push it, because if you push yourself harder than you have to, then what will happen is you'll cut your trip short. And that's another disadvantage with booking an organised tour, is they tend to allow for 24 hours for you to acclimatise and then off you go. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea at all. And because what happens, everybody's individual. What happens if you take 2 days? You've already paid. There's nothing you can do about that. So take it easy. not just on your first day, not just on your second day. Listen to your body. If you feel like you're going to come under, start feeling some strain, because AMS, it can get really, really messy for you, and it's very dangerous depending on how you go. It can be fatal. So take it easy, listen to your body, don't push yourself harder than you have to. Okay, so tip number 4, what is the best time for you to visit Ladakh? Now, for most people, the best time for you to visit Ladakh is in the summer months, which is between May and say the end of May to the middle of August. After the harvest festival in August, it doesn't look as so aesthetically pleasing, because you lose that green ribbon that runs along the moonlight landscape, and the temperature starts to plummet on either side. Although in April is also a good time to go for me personally, because you get the green ribbon run through the landscapes, and this is very pleasing, and there's also snow on the peak still, so this is a good time to take photographs. Now, if you come during the peak season, you're going to pay peak prices. There'll be very little wiggle room, and if you come in June particularly, mind yourself in June, because that is the national Indian holiday, as my Indian viewers will know, and what will happen is everything gets booked up, and it's very difficult for you to move anywhere and find a room. In July there will be no snow on the peaks, but it's a very pleasant time to visit, and this is during this short time frame is when you see the bulk of the tourists. In February, this is the best time for you to go if you're going to take on the Chador Ice Trek. This is for people who want to follow the frozen Zanskar River, so you go there at the coldest possible time because you want the ice to be as thick as possible. Now, the problem with this is it's going to be -25 at night, and so you make sure you wrap up, make sure you take the relevant equipment, whereas in June, July you can probably get away with a little bit of light insulation, although the temperatures do drop frequently. So what do you want to get out of your trip? That bases the best time for you, when you're going to go. Also, last thing I was going to add, if you are on a quest to find the snow leopard and you really want to find it, I've not been lucky enough to see one, but if you go along the Marker Valley in the winter months, the snow leopards, even the snow leopards don't like it up there. They think, oh, that's too cold, and they come down and they go towards the villages, and it makes it much more likely that you will come into contact with one. Tip number 6, protect yourself from the sunshine. Why protect yourself from the sunshine? Because it's against your intuition, surely. It's cold, and so you think, oh, it's not so hot. You're a good deal closer to the sun. Any area of your skin, particularly if you've got pasty skin like mine, then any area of your skin that is exposed will roast, and you get really bad sunburn. So my advice is cover up as much as possible, and what you can't cover up, just douse yourself in factor 50 sunscreen, because you're going to need it. It's pretty toasty on your skin. So protect yourself from the sunshine. Just because it's not hot, don't think it's not going to get you. Tip number 7, stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water. If you're going to do one of the homestay treks, make sure you fill up as much as you can on water before and after your trek, because there's only so much you can carry. You also want to make sure that you carry as much as possible. You also want to make sure that you use the ORS solutions. The ORS is rehydration salts that you get from pharmacists. They're like 5 rupees or 6 rupees or something silly like that. I usually buy them in batches of 10 and carry them on me because I've found them to be really useful. Even if you're not trekking, you really feel that the hydration becomes an issue for you, and this is your cure. Tip number 8, make sure you stay well nourished. Now this might sound like something that, what do you mean? In Leh, you can get a little bit of everything. You can get a bit of steak and chips if you want, but outside of there, you've got to eat whatever it is the local people are going to eat, and there's not a lot to choose from. Barley is used in pretty much everything. They even put it in their beer, and they can only provide you with the nutrition that they have, and the problem is with that, it's not going to be enough for you if you're going to be walking for 10 hours a day in the mountains. On the homestay trek, again, I'll come back to homestay treks, for breakfast I was given a baked potato, and when I say baked potato, it's not they had butter and tuna and stuff like that, and it was just a baked potato, a boiled egg and a carton of fruit juice to power me for 10 hours walking in the mountains. And after a few days, that's not enough, and I become shaky, and I realised that I was malnourished. So after that, after my first ever homestay trek, or my first time trekking anywhere in the Himalayas, I realised, take snacks with you, take high sugar with you. It's okay to eat up sugary foods at this point because you're going to burn it all off. It's one of the few times that you can eat chocolate guilt-free because you're going to use it all up. So make sure you stay focused on that. Also I take multivitamin pills because you don't get all the vitamins and minerals that you used to. So take that, make sure that you're not in the red when you're pushing yourself so hard. This is a very good tip. So tip number 9, get ready for no internet. There is technically internet in Ladakh because of its geographical location. It's not broadband, razor sharp internet. It's not. I mean, I've been up there for almost 6 weeks with not a drip of internet. And the problem is with this is very good for you, I believe. Having no internet is very good for you because it gives you a time away, and it's very good for your mental health. But it's not good for your family. If you don't tell them that this might be a problem and you might not be able to contact them, the odds are they're going to want to phone the National Guard to come and get you because they're going to be panicking. So don't let that happen, and tell them that this might be a problem, and get ready for no internet. It happens a lot. Outside of Leh, you might get a little bit in Lamayuru if you're super duper lucky, but most of the time when you're out there, you're not going to get anything. I think you're supposed to get internet around Somalili as well. No, you're not. Just bear it into consideration. That's going to be a problem. So the last point, tip number 10. Be honest with yourself and your limitations. And but what I mean by that is it's all very easy signing yourself up to a 21-day trek and you've never had any experience, because it's on paper, it's all very easy, but the truth of the matter is it's not. It's not. And particularly if you're going to do this 21-day trek, I'm using it, it's the most extreme example that I know of. You're going to take this walk with one village en route, sleeping in tents for the rest of the time. Now, if you've never been trekking before and you've paid the money, that is not the time for you to realise, I don't really like trekking. So take shorter treks and have a look to see if trekking is for you. This is very important, I believe, to get the most out of your time. Don't torture yourself, because I see a lot of people do that, particularly when you get in the office with some smooth talking tour guide and you think, yeah, why don't I go on a 2-week walk in the Himalayas? It's not as romantic as you think. And so just take that into consideration. Be honest with yourself. What are your limitations and what is it that you want? if you just want to see, and as well, if you take one, by what I mean, what is it that you want? If you go into one of those long trips in the Himalayas, then what will happen, the 21-day walk, what I mean by that is if you take one of those 21-day treks into the Himalayas, then over to Spiti, the extreme example I was talking about, then what that means is that you will not see any people at all except in Kozok, which means if you're there for the culture, you're not going to see any of that. So ask yourself, what is it that you want? Are you there to see the wildlife? Are you there for the culture? Do you just want to see the landscapes because that's everywhere? Then you don't book your tour appropriately for what it is that you want. I hope you've enjoyed my video on 10 reasons why you should visit Ladakh. Every Tuesday there will be another video. I will remain consistent, the information will remain consistent, and I hope you appreciate my new video editing skills. I have tried hard. It's not easy to learn. It's very difficult actually. I discovered, do you know what I discovered? You've got to copyright your music. I don't know if I sound stupid by this, but I did not know that. You cannot play your favourite song, which is unfortunate. But I'm learning every time. I want to bring you a more interesting and more snappy presentation, but you can always count on me for the best information out there on the internet. And that's a very bold statement, but I've done considerably more research than most people. So until the next time,